Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have here a classic example of weasel talk, an article that will use euphemisms in order to cover for the reality. And the reality is the rest of the world doesn't really trust the Western institutions after they saw how they behaved with Russia, which is they were able to impose sanctions in such a way that they froze the Russian banks' assets of billions of dollars and Russian individuals worth of billions, I think hundreds of billions of dollars, it's fair to say. Not fair, accurate to say, because it was more than 200 billion if I remember correctly. So the rest of the world says, oh my, if they did this to Russia with nuclear weapons, to Zimbabwe, just like that. So what did they start doing? They start getting their gold and the resources from the Western banks and so on. Why? They don't trust them. But I got here the Business Insider, and Business Insider will not report it as plainly as I am. It's going to go with euphemisms, like for instance, Gigi kills Mikey, hits him in the head with a hammer, with an axe. Right, they say like this: no, Gigi encountered Mikey and provided him with an unnecessary touch, after which Mikey decided to be no more. Why don't you say what the hell happened exactly? Well, because we cover for Gigi and Mikey. We don't want to create problems here by not telling us what exactly happened. So here is this from Business Insider. India. Countries are so spooked by the de-dollarization and the Western sanctions against Russia, they are increasingly moving gold assets back home for safekeeping. They're not spooked. They are shitless scared. Let's put it this way. Spooked. Okay. Ooh, I'm a little bit spooked. No. You know what can happen. It's good. So 41% of surveyed central banks and sovereign funds expect to increase gold holdings in the next 3 years. Gold, gold, gold. 2 out of 5 cited concerns about their central bank assets being frozen, such as in the case of Russia. Central banks and sovereign wealth funds are increasingly calling their gold assets back home amid concerns that their assets abroad could be frozen in a situation similar to Russia after it invaded Ukraine, according to a survey of central banks published on Sunday. But why are they afraid? Are they going to cross the Western countries? Well, it's exactly. They know if you don't do what these guys are telling you what to do, they can get your assets abroad frozen. About 41% of the surveyed respondents expect to increase gold allocation in their portfolios over the next 3 years, according to asset manager Invesco, who surveyed 85 sovereign investors and 57 central banks between January and March. Of this group, 2 in 5 said this is because they are concerned, that's the word, about their assets being frozen, as demonstrated by Western sanctions against Russia. Central banks around the globe snapped up a record 1,136 metric tons of gold last year, marking a 12th straight year of increasing in gold purchases, the World Gold Council said in a February report. But central banks appear to be less willing to keep their physical gold assets in storage overseas, with just under 70% of respondents now keeping their reserves at home. Sweet home. This percentage is up from 50% in 2020 per the survey. An unnamed central bank in the West told Invesco that the situation increased its gold holdings 8 to 10 years ago and used to hold it in London. But, and I'm quoting, but we've now transferred our gold reserves back to our own country to keep it safe. Its role now is to be a safe haven asset, end quote, said the central bank. Right. Most central banks don't think the Chinese yuan will be true reserve currency in the next 5 years? I don't think that either. But if you took a look at 20 years, if it goes keeps the same trend, it will rival the dollar. I would say it can get 50-50, which is not good for us because that means we have to start producing shit, not only guns and ammunition. The services, they can do it on their own. We don't have to do it for them. So, all right. So the same here. That means we have to work harder, or we have to, sorry to say, help them by, and then, hey, you can't do shit anymore because that's how you do. You create a problem there, everything stalls over there, gets blown up, you bring democracy and freedom, and then you reconstruct it. And again, you use your paper dollar that you printed, hot from the printing press. Such a racket, my friends. But it worked. It worked. And the petrodollar worked just fine. I remember certain countries on this planet are bankrupt. And their public debt is much more than the revenue, the GDP. They have a big chunk of it. I will say just United States of America, which I think its public debt is 120%, I think, almost over the GDP, which that's why they said, well, we should increase the debt limit. But if you don't produce anything, what are you going to do? Get more loans? How is that logical? And a weasel guy, an economist, made a sense. Well, the difference, you can't make the difference like a household with a country, because the country never dies. Really? Never dies? Can it go bankrupt? That's a death of a financial system and an economy. Goes bankrupt. Never happened. And countries exist and some countries don't exist, you know. If you look in the history, some of them are not there no more. So in this case, the weasel said, well, no, it's okay, we can increase the debt limit. Well, I mean, remember, just put yourself, let's say you make $50,000 a year, let's say your wife makes $50,000 a year, so it's $100,000 a year, and you consume $130,000 a year. So that means you have to get the $30,000 from somewhere. You get it from the credit card. You get it from your line of credit. You take it from some loan. You get it from somewhere. You're going to pay interest. And the next year you're going to have the same situation. Again, you earn $100,000 a year, and again you're gonna have a $25,000 or $30,000 that you have to pay. But that's on top of the ones that you already got. So you again get a loan for that, and you're not going to be able to pay it back. So it adds compound, because it's a compound interest. So after, let's say, 10 years, I give you 10 years, every year $30,000 left, 30%, 30%, 30%, 30%, with a compound interest. You will not be able to pay with the same income what you accumulate as debt in 10 years. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to get another job, but if you, let's say, you lose your job, and instead of having 100,000, you get now 50,000. Only your wife works. Or maybe your wife is not going to work for 50,000, it's going to work for 30,000, and maybe you're going to work for nothing because you're just unemployed. So you're going to have 30,000 instead of having 100,000. So then you're going to have 70,000 plus 30,000, going to be $100,000 a year in debt. Who do you think is going to give you more money for that? I wouldn't. You would not give to yourself. I mean, just think about that. And then after that, what I'm gonna you do bankruptcy. Bankruptcy, in order to do bankruptcy, to file for bankruptcy, you have to prove that you are able somehow, based on whatever you agree with a lawyer, attorney, that they're gonna make a plan for you, that you're gonna pay it back in this amount, and that's it. Then some people will comment how you spend your money. And if you don't work, how in the hell are you gonna pay money? It's not like, I start over, everybody gets, things get forgiven. Yeah, sometimes it works like that, but what kind of person does that make you to be? Responsible one? Good, member of society? I don't think so. I'm not talking about things like happen, in America, great America, if you have a surgery, God forbid, you or for your child and so on, and you don't have health insurance, which is... the greatest country, okay? Then what happens? You get in debt, let's say $300,000 for a surgery, a complicated one. Well, let's say you get an $80,000 or $120,000. You're gonna sell your house that you don't have, you're not paid off. So you get in such a deep shit that you're not going to get out. I know people that were in that situation. How do you get the money then? You go under a bridge. That's what you're going to do. This is it. So anyway, in this case, yes, they buy gold and they don't trust the West. And why should they? How many times you have to be kicked in the teeth in order to realize these guys are not trustworthy, and they say, hey, a contract is a contract. Only when you get hurt, you say the contract is a contract. But then when you are supposed to, deliver pain to other countries, the contract is not a contract because I changed my mind. Oh my God, I heard this here so many times. Well, I changed my mind. Well, what if I change my mind and we're going to change our minds every other second? Then we're not going to agree to anything. You just don't say I changed my mind. I mean, you see that signature over there on a dotted line? That's your signature. When I change my mind. Okay, change your mind. And we make another deal. Okay, make another deal. And when I'm supposed to pay you, well, I change my mind. And then you change your mind. And I change my mind. That's why a contract must be respected. And by law. That protected. If you don't, if you break the contract, then there should be some consequences. Here, these guys freeze other countries' assets with no authority. Those banks, those funds could not be frozen by what authority? I don't like you, I disagree with what you do with that guy over there, and I freeze your assets? What do you mean? I gave you this analogy many, many times. The neighborhood bank. If I get in a little fight with my neighbor, my bank is not going to freeze my assets. It's going to be the court that might do that if something happens. But I didn't hear anything about any court saying, hey, you know what, you can freeze. I'm not talking about his cousin's court. No, the neighborhood's court. Saying, you know what, then we do this. Until then, it's illegal. The bank cannot have anything to say in me and Gigi fighting. Nothing. The police has to intervene, which would be United Nations, and the courts, again, United Nations. I didn't hear that happening yet. Until then, the banks is acting illegally. Who's going to punish the banks? Nobody. Why? Because they have the biggest bazookas in the area. So the neighborhood is going to be like, oh shit. But how can they do it? They protect themselves. Oh no, we just don't want to do. Yeah, give it here. No. We have nothing. We're friends. We trust you. But I like it home in my sock, right there. Yeah, the sock under my pillow, over there like a big mountain of gold. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.